Warm welcome everyone to the second edition of Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by learmedia.tv. My name is Siobhan Gannon and I'm founder of Embodied Soulful Living and Yoni Awakening, a journey of self-discovery for women. And I'm passionate about helping women find their own passion, their true potential, and to awaken and embody their own power in all areas of their lives. So I'm an intuitive, I am a mindset and life coach. I'm also an advocate for sexual wellness and self-pleasure for women and young girls. And I've worked in holistic health now for about nearly 15 years. So I'm delighted to welcome my second guest, and her name is Marlene Zusman, and she's an intuitive interior designer. She's originally from the US and currently living in Israel, and she's going to talk about a program that she's designed called Designing Through the Senses, which is amazing, and also virtual online designing as well. So we're going to just start with hi Marlene, welcome, delighted to have you here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So we'll just start off by just telling everyone just a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into virtual online designing and that.
Okay. So I'm going to go back a couple of about 20, 30 years and just say that I met my husband while I was here while I was in Israel for my brother's bar mitzvah, and we then lived in the United States for about 10 years. And then once we had two of our children, moved to Israel. And then I had my third son. I have three boys, they're a year and a half apart. And I would say the greater part of the last 30 years, I was a full-time mom, taking care of our estate, and we lived on an agricultural property, and so was very busy with that. And I would say that I sort of my form of expression and creativity was through hosting and the design of my home and cooking, a sort of lifestyle kind of interpretation of that's how my creativity came out. And when I turned 50, after a 31-year relationship, I left the house and separated from my husband, and about 2.5 years later made it formal through a divorce. And I think I'm now 54 and a half, and I would say that the last 4.5 years has been a true journey. And I used to do interior design sort of as a hobby, as people would approach me. And as I turned 50, I sort of started to fine tune and get back in touch with me and think about what I wanted, because my children weren't at home anymore. And so that whole process was, and still is, very eye-opening and a bit of a metamorphosis. Yeah. And I do feel like I've turned into a little butterfly and I'm taking off. And I would say that probably just like everybody else, I was sort of stunted by COVID. And Israel approached it in a very aggressive way, and there were many lockdowns. And the first, I had a bad cough, and initially it wasn't COVID, but I was quarantined for about 3 weeks because they had lost my test, and I started to think about where I'm going and where I want to go. And in that process, I realized that I'm not just a designer. I really am a little bit more than that. I'm an intuitive designer. And over the course of the year, I've come up with a approach. Well, it's not really come up. It's my process, and I've just put it down on paper, and I call it designing through the senses. Because for me, it's not just important to design a beautiful space, which I love to do, and I think that I do well. I think it's also extremely important to connect the people, the essence of the souls living in the home with the design. Yeah. So when I design, you don't see me, you see the personality of the people living in the home.
Yeah.
And that, in essence, is designing through the senses.
Wow, that's amazing. I think people are beginning to take more notice of their surroundings because of COVID, and they're indoors now all the time. They're looking at four walls of their own house more and more, and noticing, I suppose, what they like and what they don't like. And I think people are becoming more aware of their energy and the energy of the space, and lots of people are clearing their home energetically and all of that as well as that. So I think it's amazing that you've come up with this in that design format. So I'm currently doing some work as well, so I'm looking at seeing what you can do for me. So
I'd love to. Well, it's ironically, you just led me into the first part of the process of designing through the senses, which is really looking at your space and taking note, because I think that we have a tendency to kind of just go through the motions and become very numb to our surroundings. And lots of us live with clutter. We inherit things maybe through our loved ones or hand-me-downs, and we just take them on, and we really don't ask ourselves, does this serve me? Do I love this? When I look at it, does it make me feel good or smile?
Yeah.
Do I feel supported by my home?
Yeah, that's amazing. And like, there's always that thing where somebody doesn't want something and they're saying, oh, do you want this or whatever? And people would take it without even a second thought. Something was offered to me by my parents recently, and I said, I'm going to have a look at it, see the picture, see the whatever before I decide if it's, and it's the energy of it. Oh, I need that in my home. It's going to serve me. And that's exactly what happened last week. So I think people are just becoming more mindful of their surroundings in general as well, and able to say no now as well if they don't want something.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think so many of us live in situations that don't support us, and we, you know, and ironically, if we took the time to kind of pay attention and get rid of the things that don't serve us, we'd have a lot more energy and feel a lot more supported in our spaces as well.
Yeah, because it's because I would do that in my home anyway. But if there's something cleaning the space of the home, and I look at something, like, it can be really draining and your energy if there's something in your house you don't like, and that could be something from somebody who's given, if they may have given you a gift but you don't actually like, it's not your cup of tea kind of thing, and it can be very draining to have
so
you know, stuff there that you don't want in your house, and you might be too polite to actually get rid of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think in this day and age, we need to step into our power and just say, maybe not even, you know, in a confrontational way, just in a silent way to ourselves, say, no, thank you. And maybe pass it on to somebody else. Because, you know, it's very style and taste and the things that we love, it's so individualistic. So what doesn't serve us might serve somebody else in a completely different way.
It's the recycling, isn't it? You can give it to charity or a recycling bank or something, you know, or some things are just for the bin, really, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very freeing. And there's, you know, you've touched on, you know, like things that you've talked about receiving things that, you know, maybe don't serve us. But there's another energy sucker, and that is, we all have it. Maybe we have more than one. It might be a drawer. It might be a desk where the bills pile up, and you go buy it, and you go, you know, like tomorrow, and it just becomes heavier and heavier each time you add something to it, or you open and put something else into the drawer. So these are things that, you know, every once in a while, it's really important for us to kind of take a look at. And, you know, I know that everybody is celebrating Easter right now, but I just finished celebrating Passover. And in the Jewish religion, at least twice a year, we go through our homes and we do like a spring cleaning and then a fall cleaning, and just get rid of all that stuff that doesn't serve us anymore. So I just got done doing that.
Yeah, and we do those a couple of times. Yeah, before Christmas, I think everyone does a big thing before the decorations go up, you know, so there is that. But I tend to do that in my home every month, really. And even with the kids, it's like whatever you're not wearing, whatever you don't want, everything goes. It's a constant cycle. But I have a chair where everything, I have a chair that, you know, it's like I have to clean that off every, you know, every week or a couple of weeks if I leave it, but everything goes on there. You know what I mean? It's kind of where, you know, I'll look at that later.
On the way out the door.
Yeah, there's one chair that's definitely gets a lot of stuff there. So how would you break it down in regards to rooms in the home, or you know, with the senses? If you tell us a little bit more.
So what I do, it's, well, when we're talking about the senses, obviously we're talking about sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and for me, intuition is a very important one too. So I always add that. And I usually take my clients through a process, and anybody can do this on their own. I've also found that lots of us are not aware and not in touch with the things that we actually like and the things that we love. We don't really know the colors that we like, or the feeling that we want to achieve in our home, or the fabrics that we want to feel. We're not aware, and so we just settle. And so what I do initially, like I said, is I have my clients go through like inventory of the things that they want to keep in their home, and then decluttering of everything that doesn't serve them. And then I have them create like a file, either a virtual file, you know, online in your computer or your phone. There's so many, or through magazines that you cut out, and you collect pictures of things that speak to you. And it can be, it doesn't necessarily need to be design. It could be a feeling, it could be a color, it could be a style, an interior design style like minimalistic or country. But you gather these photos and you just keep on collecting, and then you take a look at it. And usually there is a reoccurring theme, and through colors and through a feeling and through a style, you start to see a picture develop. And so that's the next step of it. But I'd really like to just kind of help you guys understand how each of the senses relates to design.
Perfect.
Yeah. So let's start with sight. And we said, we talked about this earlier, where we often stop looking around us and stop noticing what is around us. And so that's the first step in sight and in relation to designing through the senses. And the second thing is something more obvious, and that would be color. And as you develop your file of pictures and your collage, you start to understand the colors that make you feel good and the colors that you want to surround yourself with. And so color is an amazing way also it's sort of connected to intuition and sort of your sixth sense, because as you and I know, color, when we take in color, it sets off a hormone in our brain, and certain colors cause us to feel certain ways. So that's a very, very powerful way to affect the design and the energy in your home.
You know, for people who know anything about the energy system, the chakras are colors as well. And And we've met through a group, Finally Prosper, and that's going on about soul color as well. You know, the soul has
Yes.
certain like color personalities. I'm not sure what yours is, but mine would be orange. So, and then there's lots of different colors. So
I'm a red.
you're red, yeah. I'm here to learn red is mine.
I'm here to learn green.
All right, okay. So there's like a blueprint there as well, isn't it? So like all of those, bringing all those colors in that you naturally will be drawn to as well in your home.
Yeah, and so that would like just organically create a surrounding that's nurturing for you, which is so important, you know? So and then there would be sound, and you might say, how does sound relate to design?
Yeah.
And so I would just say that, first of all, in a very obvious way, music totally changes our energy and our atmosphere in our home. So as I am about beautiful design, I'm also very much about the energy. So like, for example, when I'm in a creative mood, I put on my bossa nova vintage music and I just go for it. And whether it's, you know, cooking a delicious meal, because I'm all about cooking with lots of love and passion, or it's, you know, creating maybe a design.
You come to my house and cook then.
I would love to. I'm going to take you up on that offer. So, you know, that makes such a difference. And I think, you know, many of us don't live with music in our homes. And so that's just a real easy way to change the energy. But there are more less obvious ways. And one is maybe through wind chimes, or maybe a waterfall in your garden. You know, I don't know a lot about feng shui, but I'm very interested in it. And I do know that, for example, wind chimes represent the flow of qi, which is life's energy. And so that's a really subtle way to move the energy through your house.
Waters.
And like a water,
yeah.
Yes, and waterfall, water, you could even do, if you had the right space or a big enough home, you could do like a waterfall inside your home or in your garden.
Yeah.
And when your windows are open, you can hear it. And that represents prosperity and, oh, I forget what is it? Oh, I forget.
I suppose it's slow anyway, because
it is the movement, and also calmness and positive energy.
Yeah.
So those are really subtle ways.
Even people who say, I have kind of an open plan, so you can kind of go around, you know, but so for some people who maybe don't have that, it's probably good to bring in a water feature or something just to
it definitely changes the energy and the flow inside your house, and it really creates a very calming vibration in your home.
Yeah. And so that's sound, and then sight was color.
And then there's smell.
Oh yeah, okay. So,
and I think this is really fascinating also, and it's more, it also, like sound, is more of a intuitive energy connection. And I think it's very interesting because most religions have some kind of spiritual connection to a smell. Like, for example, in an Orthodox church, the priests go through with frankincense to purify the church. And, you know, I'm sure you and I both do smudging or saging.
Saging, yeah.
Yes, which clears the energy and also, you know, creates a certain smell. But what I think is really, yes, like,
I think they're doing something else, as many a time the postman has called and was probably wondering, was I having a smoke?
I'm going to stick to my wine.
I don't have to have my tea today. I'm still working. Enjoy.
The other interesting thing about smell is, you know, most of our fondest memories are connected to smell. Like, I remember, for example, for me, I don't know about it for you, but I was very, very close with my grandmother, and my best times with her were when we were in the kitchen cooking together.
Yeah.
And so those smells, they trigger memories. And I think it's really important that as women and mothers, you know, we don't have to do it all the time, but those things do leave an impression and a blueprint in our children and the people in our homes that, you know, that we live with. So that's amazing. And you know, then there's taste. And when I talk about taste, I'm really not talking about salty or sour. You know, taste is very individualistic, and I'm talking more about, you know, good taste or bad taste, or maybe different styles, like a taste for a country style or a modern style or a minimalistic style. And so lots of people now, a big word in the design community is eclectic, which is a mix, a merge of many different styles, which is very much me. Okay. So there's taste. Yeah. And then there's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead there. It's you're okay. Yeah.
Oh, so then there's touch, and touch is a lot more, you know, concrete and feasible. Touch, when I say touch, I'm talking about fabrics, and so, like, for example, think about how a leather sofa would feel as opposed to a rich, velvety, luscious sofa, you know?
And lots of people would go for looks, but not, that used to be me. I'd like something, I'm kind of minimal anyway. I don't like too much stuff, but I'd go for the look, and I wouldn't be thinking of the comfort or anything either. So I wouldn't have brought everything in together.
You can merge the two, and also lots of times our climate dictates the type of fabrics that we use.
Or even practicality, like being practical about what you buy as well.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, you know, what stage in life you are, you know, if you have small kids or you're older and your kids are out of the house, so you can do different things in different stages of your life as well. I think, you know, I forgot something about sight, which it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I know, I'm just saying, I think it's wonderful that you're kind of, because these are things we probably do kind of subconsciously, but to bring it conscious, that, you know, to create that way as well. It kind of gets people thinking, doesn't it? When they, because
exactly,
you know what you're looking for. You might have an idea, but when you start bringing them all together, and you say even you wanted a sofa and you brought all of that in some way, you can even imagine yourself on the sofa with the music playing, whatever, you know, you can bring the whole experience in your imagination to it, you know, and just bringing in more mindful of it, because we tend to do it kind of subconsciously, but to be in a way, but to be mindful of it makes it actually less of a big overwhelm when you want to create and use something for your space, you know, when you.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea behind designing with the senses. It's really to create a space that, you know, makes you feel good when you're in it.
Yeah.
And you know, like if you you were saying you go for a look instead of comfort. So let's say you go for a leather sofa because most of the time it's hot in your environment, but you still want that cozy feeling. So you throw like a nice wool or cashmere throw on, and then you've got the layering, and you've got a little bit of both, you know, like the best of both worlds. But I forgot something that's really, really important about sight that I forgot to talk about, and that's lighting. And lighting profoundly affects us in our home. Mm. I am super light sensitive. I don't know about you. But you know, there's all different kinds of lighting. There's white light, which is a very sterile look.
Yeah.
And you might want to use like a bright white light when you're putting on your makeup or when you're picking out your clothes. But for the most part, for me personally, I like a softer light and a more mood setting light. So you can have different types of lighting in one space that will provide different kinds of atmosphere. So that's a very important thing about
Changed my
Sighthouse.
spotlights recently, and you know, for energy saving ones, and so I've gone for that bright one in the kitchen, but I have an open kitchen dining, but the dining space is soft. So I've gone for soft then in the other certain rooms, and the bright ones in between, and then dimmers, you know. So yeah, atmosphere.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I just finished building my house, and you would think that as a designer, I would think about that more. I'm okay with it, but I didn't actually put enough lighting in my kitchen. So,
well, when I changed the lighting in the kitchen, it was like a new kitchen, because
yeah,
a few years now, but just that bringing in that light, because everybody kind of came in and said, God, it looks like you've redone your kitchen, but you haven't, you've just changed the lighting. Yeah.
And see how subtle that one thing can be.
Yeah.
So I guess the last thing is intuition, and that for me talks a lot about the energy of our space and what we can do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, to kind of make sure our spaces have good energy. And we talked about it earlier. It's also about you know, like clearing the space, and then actually clearing the energy of the space through, there's so many different, you might be able to even give more
I would
tips.
use sage. I use sound. You know, lots of people would have bowls or bells, or you know, you can even download some on. You know, there's loads on YouTube just for sound, for space clearing. So you just play that in the background. It's really about breaking up the energy in the atmosphere, really.
Yes.
Use intention. So I use a few different things. People use drums, you know, drumming or whatever, you know, so there's loads of different ways. You know, women in the holistic world will relate to that. Maybe others wouldn't, but I suppose the main thing that people do, I think sage is the usual one that people would.
Right, and then there's also it's a San Paulo. I think I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, like the yeah.
The stick, the wood burning
incense sticks. Yeah, so there's lots of different ones, and even with sage is kind of a heavy. There's so many different types. So if you go into a holistic store, they've got so many different types, and they tell you everything, what everything's for. You just have, but it's really a good idea to start kind of looking after the home energetically. I can tell you, well.
I think it's so important, and I can, well, you know, in our group, Marcia always has said that, especially if we're online a lot, which a lot of us are, that we take on the energy of the people around us, which, you know, it's funny, that sort of happened to us right before we started our interview. So I think it's so important. I generally, whenever I clean my house, part of the process is saging. And I don't know, I just feel like it makes such a huge difference instantly.
Yeah. But even when people come to me for sessions, because the first thing you're going to meet in anybody is their aura, it's their bioelectrical field around. It's the first thing you're going to meet. So oftentimes if I'm feeling whatever, I might be feeling okay inside, but I know that the space in the room is affecting me. So even if somebody comes for a session and they leave, if you're going to go back into the same environment that you came out of, then there's no point having such a great session, because you're going back into what you just come out of. So I always say, you know, maybe it's time now, you've had that session, you've cleared a load of stuff, it's time to go home now and declutter the house and energetically clear it as well, because you want to change the space as well. You don't want to go back into the same space after having a lovely clean out of your personal energy. And that's where the results last and people move forward, is when they actually look after their home as well as their own personal energy field and body, you know, in the holistic health. So it really is, the two of them go together. And
I don't think, I don't think until really COVID, I don't think people really stopped to, I think on a daily basis, people didn't really stop to think about how much it affected them, because they were like in a routine, getting up, going to work, or doing their routine with their children, as I did for so many years. And, you know, you just get into this pattern and you don't even think about it. And I just think you're right, it goes hand in hand. Like you,
but when COVID last year,
you really can't do one without the other. And so it's so important.
Yeah. Last year of COVID, there was like an influx of everybody going, and they were all doing work on their house and their gardens, because it's like they had to spend time in the house, and suddenly they could see everything that they didn't like, or that was broken, or whatever, and everybody kind of went mad to make their space more, I suppose, pleasing. And then some people realized how much they loved their homes. I remember some people saying, God, I actually didn't realize how much I loved, because I never get to spend any time in it, because they'd always be in the office. So there was kind of a bit of both, but there was a lot of people doing work on their houses at that stage. There was like loads of them.
It definitely taught us many lessons. Some were harder and some were good. I got COVID. I got COVID about 2 months ago, and even though we've been in lockdown and slowing down forcibly, you know, it taught me another lesson, that I just can't go at the pace that I used to go at. And there's no reason to, because one of the side effects one of the after effects really for me with the COVID was the extreme fatigue. And so it just stopped me in my tracks. And I just said, why do I need to go at this pace, even if I'm feeling good? Yeah. Why does it need to be so intense all the time? And so, you know, when you stop and you slow down, I think you think more about yourself, because I think for us as women, at least I know for myself, at least before I hit 50, I was giving 100% of myself all the time, and putting me on the back burner and my needs on the back burner. And so just slowing down and taking time and doing self-care and having some kind of routine for me, it's been a huge lesson through.
And the energy's changed, isn't it? We're into 2021 now, and it's called the Aquarian age, but it is around the slowing down. So what you're doing, designing through the senses, is a wonderful way to bring those together. So when you slow down to kind of get a sense of your home and what you like, you're also slowing down. You're slowing down yourself. So, but it is around easier, an easier way of living. And faster isn't always better. So I know that when I'm in my body and I'm present, I may have a long list to do, but it gets done much easier than if I'm up here and I'm going around like a headless chicken. So you do get more done, and it gets done easier. So it's ease and flow, which is lovely, I think, with the way you're offering this, designing through the senses. And I was just wanted to ask you as well, because I know a colleague, a friend of ours as well, has worked with you, and she was talking to her this morning. So you designed her bedroom. So you helped her, you know, she wanted to change the bedroom, she wanted to change the energy of the bedroom. And she was just telling me how you brought in that, because she said the energy's changed, her relationship is better. So it's improved the romantic relationship.
I get goosebumps when I hear that. Like, I'm like, so like, there's nothing better than that for me to hear that feedback. So the other thing that COVID taught me was forcibly to design virtually, which means, you know, I get on my phone or my computer, and I can't always be in the space, which I never thought I would be able to do. If you had asked me before COVID, can I design a room without being in it, I would have said no, because I'm a a people person. I want to be in front of you. I want to feel your energy. I want to,
Yeah.
you know, like that's me. And so I would have said absolutely no. Excuse me. I guess I need water instead of wine. So I have organically started designing online, like virtually, and it's been amazing. I just to see how it's actually possible, and I've had amazing results. One is with our friend, our colleague, and she wanted to change the atmosphere in her room, and so she did a video for me, and I asked her what kind of feeling does she want to achieve, and it's really interesting. So the way that we sort of did it is she told me the stores that are in her area, and I would go online, and through that we would come up with everything, and it's, you know, like a treasure hunt, really. You know, you decide what the things that you need to get, and a direction that you want to go in, and it just flourishes from there.
For anybody now, any of the ladies watching this, and they think, oh gosh, how did she do that? So it's good to know that, say our friends in Ireland, so then over the stores or whatever, so you had a look then, and Tubi kind of did it through there, where you did.
Yeah. Well, our friend is in Ireland, and so I actually did that for her, and another colleague, helping her with her hair salon.
So it's not just homes; you do businesses as well.
I do, and it's just amazing. I realized that I can definitely do this globally and do it online, and so there's no reason not to.
Amazing, because that's one thing with COVID is it's definitely got everybody out of this little box of in-person stuff that you have to be there. So I think that's amazing. That's the really plus side of all of this, and then meeting so many different women from all over the world and having,
which for me, because you know, I think I'm curious by nature, and I am a people person. That's the best part of it for me.
Yeah,
it's just meeting all these amazing people all over the world.
And because you helped her design the bedroom, what she said to me this morning was, it's a real couple's room. It's a real, everything about the, she'd asked, I think it was softness she wanted and a few things to bring in. But she said the energy in the room all the time since there is like, that's couple's room. There's nothing else in there except that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because initially she had her vision board in her bedroom, and we talked about it, and I said, this is your vision board. It's not yours and his vision board. So it's important to have that, but not in that space. And in a bedroom, everything should be, if you are looking for a relationship or are in a relationship, everything should be about twos, about, you know, the couple. And it should be a very balanced space and a very soothing space.
Yeah, well, it's working for her, so that's
that makes me.
And even with business, then, because you're saying you're doing, that's the same thing. You just go online and kind of match up. She'd tell you her nearest stores, or you know, where it's easy for her to get from.
Even
and then
paint colors, even paint colors.
Paint colors, yeah.
So everything's possible.
Yeah, so that's your virtual online, and that's a bit about your design through the senses. So Marlene's website is www.marlene-design.com, and all that information will be at the end. But for anybody watching this who would like to get a taste of your services, you were saying that you do a consultation, a free consultation.
Yeah, well, I'd like to offer a gift to anybody who's listening to today's recording.
Is that just today's recording, or is it? Do you usually offer that?
No, I mean, I normally would give a half an hour, but for your guest, I would give an hour.
Okay.
So they're getting a little bit more.
Very generous.
And so if there's a room or a space that you want to tweak or change, or renovate, we can talk about that in that time period.
Yeah,
I would
so
love to be a
for
part
any
of that.
of you ladies watching that would like that hour, just to, when you do contact Marlene, that you just mention Lear Media TV, so that you know that this is where they've seen your information. So
Perfect.
just to briefly go through the consultation to give them an idea of what to expect.
So, I mean, generally speaking, what I find out before the meeting, I find out which room, what's working in their room, what doesn't work,
Okay.
What they want to achieve by our time together. And then I'll have them do a video
Okay.
of the room from the entrance to all of the walls, and then a picture of each wall. And then then it's easy for me to kind of get a direction of what currently exists and you know, where we go from there.
Yeah. And do you do gardens as well then? Would you do the outside of the house, or is it
I
just
mean, I
interior?
normally, I don't usually, but I don't want to say no. So I'm not an architectural landscape architect. I'm definitely not that. But you know,
Or no?
but definitely outside. You know, a lot of us have outside spaces that are part of our homes, and so I definitely can help create an atmosphere
Okay. And
outside as well.
have you any tips just for the program here? Any tips that you know, maybe 5 tips or something that you could give for women now to maybe start the process of looking at their house in a different way, or if somebody's ready to move with something, or somebody's just looking and thought, oh, I've just watched this now and I'm getting a few ideas. Do I actually like my room? Do I like the sofa I'm sitting on? And you know, what kind of feel? Have you any just little practical tips?
Yeah, for sure. So like we had talked about earlier, the first place to start is take inventory in your home.
Okay.
That's the first place to start. And so you go through and you look at each thing, and that can be daunting. So, you know, if it is overwhelming for you, so you do room by room, you know,
Yeah.
and not the whole house. But so it's taking inventory, and then it's getting rid of whatever doesn't serve you, or passing it on to somebody else. It's organizing, you know, and sometimes it means bringing somebody in who knows how to do that better than you, which I don't do for everything, but occasionally I do for like my kitchen or my wardrobe. That's a nice way to spoil yourself, is to have somebody who's really professional come in and do that for you. It makes a huge difference.
And you think fabulous space yourself there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because a lot of us aren't you know, we don't think about what is functional, what is the best place to put things as a form of functionality, you know. And I can design pretty spaces and connect you with them, but I'm not, you know, like I think it's important to let the people who that's their specialty do the things that they do best. So I just, right before Passover, I brought somebody in to do that for me.
okay,
In my
and that's
kitchen.
and look at I got somebody to do something on for my booking system. Sometimes you just have to delegate out. You can't do everything.
Yes.
There's no point making your head, like it's just something. Just pass it on. And
No,
women,
absolutely.
sometimes women find that hard to kind of you know, they're kind of doing everything to pass it on. So definitely I recommend passing some stuff on.
Yeah, we don't have to be good at everything.
Yeah,
we can just be,
yeah.
you know,
Do what brings you joy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
So
I was just
wait, there's one more thing is
oh, yeah,
to, you know, to do that, make that folder so you kind of connect, so you understand what you actually like. And then the design process starts from there, once you do those 3 things.
Yeah, perfect. And I was going to say, even when you brought in 5 senses, and then you're talking about the intuitive sense, is that I just get that you would intuitively like connect with that person's personality as well. So whoever you're working with, kind of get, say for a colleague who wanted softness, then just kind of tuning into her. So that's the kind of extra ability, tuning into her soul essence, basically, to see what what's going to resonate. So having that ability, I think, in the design world is huge, and not everybody has that. So just to kind of that intuitive sense that you bring in, you really, and you like to connect with the person, because some of them can be very, same as websites actually. Do you know, when you can have a generic website, somebody's really good at doing it, they'll do it and that's it, but you're coming in with the feminine way of the intuitiveness and getting to know the person and get to feel your people's person. So you like, and getting to kind of get a sense of the person, so that you're helping them get a sense of themselves even, and opening up to ideas, opening
absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
Registered with them. Do you know what I mean? So opening up the space.
Absolutely. It's very hard for me not to organically do that anyway. And when I stopped and started thinking about my process, this is what came up is the
lots of people don't,
piece.
lots of interior don't actually do that. So just kind of highlighting that, that's the most amazing part of it, because like when you're doing anything like a website, say the lady who did mine, she was like that with the website. She intuited in, she wanted to connect in to see who I was. Whereas there was lots of people that were willing to do it, but it was a generic, there was no personality.
Right, right.
Well, so the same with the home. You can get generic kind of whatever, and they look at different, what it looks like, what it feels like, but you're actually connecting in with the essence of the soul, the person, the soul, the personality. And that's the difference, I think. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, well, I think anybody who's intuitive, it's very hard for them not to, in everything that they do, kind of bring that into play.
Yeah, yeah. So have you anything else to add, or?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it all. And I will say that, I just think it's our responsibility. No one's going to do it for you. And it's really our responsibility to take control of our spaces and the energy in our spaces, and to make them, even if it doesn't need to be on a huge budget, you can do it on a small budget. You can even do it just with the existing things that you have in your home now, and going through those processes, and just that we've talked about earlier. And so it's our responsibility to do that. And when you do step into it that way, it just makes a huge difference in the way that you live your life and the way you wake up in the morning and start your day.
And when you're saying that, even it's just kind of getting a sense of almost like renewing what you have. So it may not be something you have to buy new, it's just you're reinventing it. And especially if you're clearing your energy, you could see something and say, well, you know what, this is going to look nice, great over here, or or use it in with something else. So it doesn't always have to be everything's out in the bin. And so it's kind of what you find in there that you wouldn't, because she also told me that there was items there that were kind of moved, but it was the placement of them, or the way she's seen them. The perspective was different. She changed the way she was seeing the actual item, and that changed the whole energy around it. So
exactly.
So that's the kind of
but
way.
You know what? And also, if you're like, for a tip for somebody who's on a small budget, like, even if you have clothes that you love, or that you can repurpose something for something completely different than its initial purpose was for. So, like, for example, you could do a quilt out of some of your favorite pieces of clothing, or if you had a beautiful piece of fabric and you needed artwork, you could frame it.
Yeah, so many ideas.
Yeah, if you actually have something, like I was given when I married my ex-husband, I was given by his aunt. He's part Moroccan, and she had given me these Moroccan slippers which are gorgeous. You know, like I would never wear them out because I wouldn't want to ruin them. And I've had them in my house. So I was trying to think, now that I've downsized, how can I don't want to get rid of them because I still love them, but how can I use this in a different way? And if, you know, there's lots of these box frames where you can put something in the frame that's like three-dimensional and
I know
not.
them, yeah, yeah.
And so that's another way to
That's where
hang
they are.
on to something that you like, but not in a drawer. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
profile it and put it
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there so you see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. So you're opening people up to all of those kind of things that maybe they can't see right now, you know. So yeah, so many ideas and
Oh, you know, I will say one more thing, and this it's very interesting. When I was really sad in my marriage and in my beautiful home that I couldn't wait to get out of, that I built and raised my boys in, I couldn't grow anything, nothing. And as soon as I moved out, I filled up my apartment with plants, and all of a sudden I had a green thumb. And I think that the energy of plants, you know, I think it's very grounding. And I think it's a beautiful way to bring life into your home also.
yeah, yeah, I love plants as well. Yeah. No, that's another great tip. Yes. So yeah, I mean, again, we could talk for ages because it's going to keep going on, more and more ideas, but that's just giving people just kind of a bit about what you do or what to expect and what you could co-create together. So as I said, yeah, so yeah, again, Marlene's website will be above this video, and she is offering again an hour session for anybody who mentions just the interview, so she'll know who you are. So an hour free session, consultation where she'll go through a little bit about what you want, and you can work together and kind of let her know what you're looking for and see how she can help you there. So thank you so much as my second guest on Women's Empowerment Hour, and you're very inspiring and a very empowered woman as well, and love spending time with you. And I can't wait for you to, once I get my skates on and finish what I started, to get some ideas as well and work with you as well. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me on your Easter Sunday.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so, yeah, thanks very much. And we'll chat to you again in 2 weeks where we'll have another wonderful guest on. Yeah, so we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.